The Land Rover Range Rover has a very storied history of lots of heritage and pride because it is the original luxury 4x4. Right here is a 2023 Range Rover P400SE, the 5th generation L460 Range Rover. Underneath the hood here is a mild hybrid 3-liter straight-six engine, and it's the base model Range Rover right now, but that doesn't stop it from being magnificent and very luxurious and opulent indeed. It's got lots of nice materials in and out, and it is an absolutely gorgeous beast, isn't it? The one thing I really like about the L460 Range Rover is the fact that they didn't overstyle it to be show-offy to anybody. What they actually did is they took the old Range Rover and simplified it and softened the design. Case in point, if you look around the bottom of the windows, you'll notice that the seal isn't there. They designed it out. Still works, at least I hope it doesn't leak water in like old Land Rovers are known for. The one downside is if you spend a pretty penny, well over $200,000 on the top level autobiography with long wheelbase, mini fridge inside, 4 captain's chairs separated in absolute isolation, pure luxury, and total wealth, it looks pretty much the exact same as this one, the P400SE. That is not to say that this is a bargain basement Range Rover. Oh no. Let's take a review type tour of this Range Rover in particular. Again, one thing that is notable of the L460 is that it is absolutely beautiful. They completely totally nailed the design of the new Range Rover. It might even be the best Range Rover yet in terms of looks. Don't hate me too much for that, but I prefer this to every other Range Rover. I love how simplistic it is. I love how elegant it looks. And I particularly love this light bar back here. Oh no, the taillights. They've gone missing. Or some guy just modded it and blacked out his taillights, which is a disgusting mod, by the way. No, well, sort of. Some guy modified it to be black, yes. That guy was JLR themselves. They sort of blacked out the taillight design here, make it look a little bit more simplistic, a little bit more understated and nice. Of course, it still works. Again, it looks really cool, particularly when they light up. The L460 is based on the MLA platform, which is shared with the current brand new Range Rover Sport. It's more stiff, and it has some improvements to the structure to make it quieter, ride better around town, because let's face it, nobody really takes their brand new Range Rover off-road, do they? And that proves true when you look at these 22-inch wheels. I would not feel comfortable taking this on a complicated off-roading course with these wheels and the amount of sidewall in that tire. More than what you'd get from a luxury car or like a BMW X7, but I wouldn't say that's enough for crawling over rocks. So if you're gonna do that, you might want to put some different wheels on this car. But that's the thing, Range Rovers, they're used for around town driving, taking your wealthy, well-off kids to school and back home, and driving to Starbucks every morning, because you can afford that venti Starbucks latte every morning if you have one of these. All right, let's talk about practicality for a moment. We start at the back of the Range Rover. Right here, I have a button on the key, of course, to open it. It's a split folding tailgate, and unlike in the BMW X7, one push of the button opens both sides, which I'm sure you can configure on the X7. And as you watch it open electrically and luxuriously and gracefully, you can remind yourself about how well off and wealthy and amazing you truly are. Before you reach in for your toolkit, pull it out because your car is broken down, you're on the side of the road, it's raining, it's pouring, your wife's about to divorce you because you should have bought something more reliable. So you better get working on getting this thing up and running so that you can get home to your family. And of course, a hallmark of the split folding tailgate on the Range Rover is that you can sit on it. So while you're waiting for the AAA truck or AA, depending on which country you're watching this video from, it's kind of comfortable. And actually, they knew that this tailgate design was going to be used for sitting and waiting for the tow truck, because on some models, I don't believe this one has it. No, it doesn't. There's literally a backrest you can pull out of the tailgate. So you can sit, rest, and just enjoy watching the side of the highway go past and the reliable cars, and hope to see that iconic yellow van on its way over to rescue you. Jokes aside though, this is supposed to be here for picnicking and tailgating and all that sort of fun SUV stuff. Look around and I can see a decently sized cargo area for an SUV of this size. It's not that much to talk about, other than the fact that I can drop these back seats with a switch from back here. That's very nice. You don't have to pull on latches and then push the seats down. They just work. And they also fold back up electrically, which is really nice. And that is the true hallmark of a luxurious vehicle. That's pretty cool, actually. Also, if the car is up a little bit too high for you to lift your heavy luggage into the back, these buttons back here will raise and lower the air suspension to make it a little bit easier to lift stuff in back here. If you, for some reason, can't lift that luggage an extra 5 inches and you'd rather wait for 30 seconds as the back of the car drops down, that's what you can do. I'm not going to touch that though, because I've heard of Range Rovers and their air suspension and the reputation that they have, and I don't want to be responsible for that exploding on me. So that means we're done back here. And to close this tailgate, it's just one button. Look at that. Oh yeah, pure luxury. I'm sure in 10 years and 100,000 miles, that is not gonna work anymore. But right now, it's a very nice thing to have. All right, this is the best part of some Range Rovers, maybe not this one, because this is a short wheelbase. It's worth noting at this point that the L460 Range Rover is available in 2 body styles. There's the short wheelbase, which is what this one is, and then there's the long wheelbase, a little bit longer to give the rear seat passengers more room. There's 3 different seating configurations. There's a 4-seater where it's extra luxurious for the rear seat passengers, and that's where you get the fridge, that's where you get the whole beautiful center console and the tables that fold out, all of that nice luxurious stuff this car doesn't have. And they have the everyday configuration, which is a 5-seater, what we have here. And also on the long wheelbase, you can now get a 7-seater, which is very nice. And people have been asking for that for years. In this short wheelbase, there's not that much room. And while you're being chauffeured around back here, you're constantly reminded about how if you worked harder and you got that promotion that you were hoping for within the company, you'd be able to stretch out a bit more back here and actually afford a chauffeur, which you can't. You're just sitting in the back seat of your Range Rover imagining a chauffeur driving you around. But that doesn't mean that I don't have enough room to be comfortable back here. It just means that I don't have enough room to spread out for longer journeys, and when I'm being chauffeured around down the green lane on my way to my office meeting, which is for some reason out in the countryside. Back here, there's lots of beautiful materials. The leather on the seats and on the door panels stitched very beautifully. Feels nice and soft, very comfortable. This color in here is called Perlino, I think. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Perlino. Maybe it's a little better with the British accent, who knows. I've got some controls right here for adjusting the backrest on the seat so I can recline it, be a little bit more comfortable back here. It's very nice. Looking down from that, you have window controls, but not only for the left side here, you can also do it for the right side or both. So you can roll down both back windows at once. I also do have some climate control functions up here, which is nice. Vents, which is also nice, but that's something that you should expect from a car like this, so not really that notable. In the center, you have a very beautiful center console with 2 buttons, one for cup holders that open very fast, and another one to open up your velvet lined storage in here. Oh, that's so nice. Feels very luxurious indeed. That's what you get when you pay over $100,000 for a Range Rover these days. Oh yeah. So yeah, back here, it's got some nice features, but because this is a low-end basic model Range Rover, you can't really call it basic, because this is one of the less expensive Range Rovers, there's not that much to play around with and do back here, but it's still very luxurious, very comfortable, very nice materials everywhere you look. Everything you touch feels expensive, feels very good. Even the back of the seat, this is always cheap, crappy plastic in every car I've ever been in, but in this, it feels so nice running my fingernails along it. This car gets high marks for pretty much everything back here. This isn't an autobiography, but it's still nice. Let's hop up front. Up front in the L460 Range Rover, let's turn this down a little bit and shut the door softly just to check. And of course, it has soft closed doors because I'm British and I'm too rich to simply slam the door like those plebeians in their cheap SUVs. I'm going to do it softly end with grace. Oh, beautiful. That's absolutely lovely. How many British people are still watching? Have you guys all clicked off the video? I don't blame you. Okay, so we just talked about materials, and I'm feeling around. Again, nothing feels cheap. There we go. Found something. Never mind. This storage bin area feels a little bit cheap, but you're going to be just throwing stuff in there. Your keys, water bottles. It doesn't need to be that nice. No one's going to be, oh, yeah, I found plastic. I'm not buying it. Sorry. But everywhere else, everything feels absolutely gorgeous. This steering wheel has this nice gloss wood trim. Don't know if it's wood, but it's like a glossy trim around it. Feels very expensive to hold. It's got a lot of design to it, lots of colors. It looks beautiful. It's very beautiful to hold in your hand. These shift paddles feel nice and expensive. They look expensive too. I love how the plus and minus on each shift paddle is actually cut out of the paddle. It's not painted on, it's not a sticker, it's actually cut out of the paddle. That's pretty cool. Looking forward, I have a fully digital gauge cluster that is very configurable. You can move things around, have it show you different things, full screen maps, all that stuff I'm pretty sure it can do. Very crisp, very beautiful. I will say that in my current seating position, the steering wheel does block the gauges a bit more than I'd like, but not a big deal. Funny looking at a Range Rover that has a speedometer that goes up to 180. That's absolutely ridiculous. But right now it's sitting off, so I have a check engine light. I'm sure that will come back at some point. I can already hear the angry comments in the comment section from British people because I've had a bit of a run-in calling Land Rovers unreliable, and yeah, that nation is very prideful. In there, that is an absolutely huge, very deep center console storage area. You've got some nice deep cup holders for your Starbucks Frappuccinos that you're going to be getting twice a day because you can afford it. You have the money, you have a Range Rover. Forward from that, you have the gear selector, which I actually kind of like. It's got the button on the very front of it. Feels very nice to use. I like it. It's a good gear selector. It's got some nice, almost feels like Alcantara on the top. I know it's not, but it's a soft suede type material. Feels very nice, very expensive feeling as you shift into gear, and that's important to get right, and they got it right. Got a little volume knob for your volume, start stop button, and this selector here controls Land Rover's terrain response. I'm sure there's got to be a Starbucks drive-through setting in here somewhere, right? Rock crawl, that's for when you make an oopsie and accidentally hit the curb on the way in. Sand, that's for when you're driving over some mix for a mocha that's been spilled on the ground for whatever reason. Maybe this joke isn't working very well. Up here we have Land Rover's Pivi Pro infotainment system. That's apparently what it's called. And it's really nice. I like it because it's a lot like BMW's in a way that it functions very well, functions just as well as you'd want it to. It's really responsive to your touch, has lots of menus and widgets that you can change. It's got its own little style, so you wouldn't mistake this for anything else other than a Land Rover infotainment system, if you know what I mean. I find infotainment kind of boring, to be honest, but it's good. We'll just say that it's good. You can change stuff. It looks nice. It's got a crisp, beautiful screen. This screen also adjusts electrically. I believe you can pivot it to point towards you a little bit more. That's a nice thing to have. Down here you have your climate controls, which are pretty simple to use. 2 dials here, and you have a couple icons that tell you to push for your heated seat controls and pull for your fan controls. And when it's in its default, you just adjust the temperature. It's pretty simple and easy to use. So yeah, again, this is a very nice, beautiful interior. All the materials you feel luxurious, feel expensive. The seats are soft and comfortable and look beautiful. I always have loved this Range Rover hallmark, which is the armrest that you can adjust with this screw thing here. Range Rovers have always had that. The L460 doesn't really need it because it has this nice leather center console lid here, but because it's a Range Rover, they had to put this in, and it's very nice. It's comfortable, it's soft, it's right where you'd want it to be, where your elbow rests. Let's pop the hood. Oh yes. It's no coincidence that they made the hood release lever very easy to get to and very easy to find. What we have here is a very underwhelming looking engine cover that covers a 3-liter turbocharged inline 6 with a mild hybrid component. It develops just under 400 horsepower. This is also available in the Range Rover Sport and the new Defender. It's a good engine. It's smooth. Haven't heard anything bad about it yet. Also available is BMW's 4.4 liter twin turbocharged V8. In the future, supposedly they will do an electric version of the new Range Rover, which will be nice. I don't have any problems with that. We'll have to wait and see how that goes, but I think that is something that they're planning. But if you want what is likely the safe bet, the straight six with the mild hybrid is probably a good engine. Let's experience this engine, take it out on the road for a drive. Driving the L460, the new, it's not really new anymore, it's been out for a couple of years, Range Rover. Now, anybody who's still watching the video at this point, who hasn't gone to the comment section to rip into me for making fun of the car for being unreliable, hate to say it, it's true. That's one thing. I can say this because I am a Land Rover owner myself, and my Land Rover is currently very broken. Update coming soon. So I could say this, Land Rover needs to work on their reputation, I think. Anyway, I don't run the brand, and I'm not in the market for a new Land Rover. I can't afford it. Nowhere near enough money. So perhaps people that can afford these cars don't really mind that it's unreliable, but I don't know, if I think the whole luxury experience is spoiled a little bit when it leaves you on the side of the road or when pieces fall off or whatever. Sitting right here in this car right now, 10,000 miles, it feels new. No examples of wear anywhere I can look. It feels nicely screwed together. Everything is tight. Everything feels well built. And again, it's got lots of very nice, luxurious, expensive materials in and out. It's got lots of good detailing in it, like the fact that the rear doors open really wide, make it easier to get into the back. The split tailgate design is really good. The taillight design, the whole design of the entire car in general is very good. And so far, I am very much enjoying this drive. It is a very comfortable, very luxurious car, but Land Rover needs to, I think they need to work on their reputation. What they're doing instead is taking all their models and making them their own sub-brands and changing their name to JLR, which doesn't make much sense until you remember that you're driving a Land Rover, Range Rover. That name is a little bit weird, I know. But they're messing around with changing their name. They're messing around with battery EV technology with the Chinese. There's just recent news that the Freelander name is coming back, which is hooray, great for me. I've been a Freelander owner, unfortunately, for 4 years. But it's going to be on an electric Chinese SUV, and I'm like, never mind. So that's just, I need to get that rant off my chest. Nobody wants a car that's going to break down, right? Nobody does. So they need to fix that. All right, let's hit it here. Yeah, it's not very fast. Yes, it's got 400 horsepower, but I believe it weighs over 5,000 pounds. So it's not going to be the quickest car. And it certainly feels not very quick. It doesn't feel slow per se. It doesn't feel like it's being held back by its engine. But if you like to drive with your pants on fire every once in a while, the V8 is probably the better bet. This doesn't have that much power, but it probably makes up for it in fuel economy, which I don't think any Range Rover owner has ever cared about that, ever. Don't think they know the definition of the word. Like I was saying, nobody wants a reliable car. None of my friends like Land Rovers because they know that Land Rovers are unreliable. And when you're killing that part of the market, there's so many people that are going and buying Land Cruisers and Sequoias because they want a Range Rover, but they don't want to deal with it breaking down every day. I think that's the most important thing that they should look after. But again, I'm just some small YouTube guy, so maybe my opinion doesn't really matter, doesn't really make much sense because I'm probably missing a lot of stuff. So that's over. Let's talk about how the L460 Range Rover drives. It is, to use one word, nice. This thing is very nice. All the materials, again, that you touch as you're driving just feel great. I love this steering wheel. It's a huge, huge steering wheel. Almost feels like I'm driving a bus, but it feels so nice in your hand and it feels so well designed. Like they really made the steering wheel part of the design of the car. In terms of handling, well, it's a Range Rover. Of course, it's a very tall vehicle and it's very heavy, so it's got all that stuff. I mean, it's not going to be a handler, and definitely doesn't feel like one. That doesn't matter, because as you're driving your Range Rover, you're just aware of how many digits you have in your bank account, a couple more than most people. And as you wait for the car to break down, which it will eventually, it's just nice to drive around in it. It's so comfortable over bumps. It drives with so much grace. It's not powerful, it's not fast per se, but it's smooth. That's the most important thing with this car, is that it's very smooth, very quiet. One complaint that I've had with older Land Rovers, the big ones like the Range Rover and the Discovery, is that over bumps and uneven terrain, they are very uncomfortable and just completely lose all composure and throw you left, throw you right. You're gonna hit the window with your head, get a concussion. That's probably why most Land Rover guys buy another Land Rover, because they hit their head on the window and they think, oh, I need another one now. Oh, as I drive it down this street, you're aware of things that you run over, of course. Like, here's a manhole cover right here, run over it. Yeah, I noticed it. I could feel the little grooves in the manhole cover, but not a single part of that was offensive. It was just making me aware of the terrain that I'm driving over. It feels nice. I mean, again, I own an old Land Rover that's 20 years old, and it definitely acts like it's 20 years old, and it's broken right now. And I've grown up in Land Rovers. My dad's had Discoveries and old Range Rovers growing up, so I know these things. And in 20 years, Land Rover, they've really cleaned up their on-road dynamics with the cars. This thing handles better than any other Land Rover I've ever driven. Goes over bumps and uneven terrain better than any other Land Rover I've ever driven, and it still has all the off-road prowess, all the off-road stuff. I didn't touch on it much, but you've got terrain response, which you can set to automatic. You've got low range. You've got everything. You even have a wade sensing feature where it senses the water that you're driving through and tells you when the water is getting too deep. It has a maximum wading depth of 2 feet 8 inches. So it's amazing in terms of all the Land Rover stuff. It's luxurious, it's quiet, it's comfortable, and it will get you anywhere as long as you're within range of your nearest tow truck provider. That's it for this video. Hope everybody enjoyed. Like, subscribe, do all the normal YouTube stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.